Hello everyone, it's Joe here from Draft FPL, and we are back with a weekly series helping you find some good value free agents and waiver pickups in Draft FPL. Okay, I'm back. It's game week 11. Apologies for missing last week. Everything got a little bit chaotic here, so I had to forfeit the video, I'm afraid. But if you never want that to happen again, just sign up to the Patreon, because those weekly cheat sheets with all my waiver picks come out every single week, no matter what, unless something seriously bad happens. But looking ahead to game week 11, let's just get stuck straight into the picks. First up, we've got Dragusin of Spurs available in 97% of Draft FPL leagues, and that information is provided by draftfc.co.uk as always. Looking at Dragusin, the next 4 game weeks for Spurs are pretty good, 3 out of the 4 especially. Ipswich at home this week, then it's City away, which you'd obviously want to avoid, then Fulham at home, Bournemouth away. I wouldn't normally back a Spurs defender very often, but Ipswich are the worst attack in the league statistically, so it feels like a good week to go for it. They're still, Spurs defence is pretty poor considering they're a top 8 side, but in the grand scheme of things, they're still like a mid-table defence. So definitely worth a punt. Van der Ven is injured. Romero also a little bit of a doubt, but we're not sure. Have to wait and see if he plays this evening on Thursday. But Dragusin will definitely come in for Van der Ven, you would have thought. And for this Ipswich game, he's definitely a good shout. If Van der Ven's out for longer, I'm definitely not starting Dragusin away to City. Fulham at home, Bournemouth away is kind of good enough in an emergency if he's definitely going to start. Like I said, I don't rate the Spurs defence that highly anyway, but this week, for instance, when you look at the clean sheet odds, another thing provided on the Patreon, Spurs are top this week, the most likely team to keep a clean sheet this week, and you can pick up a guaranteed player off the waivers for them. That's kind of a no-brainer. Next up, we're looking at Simas, available in 72% of draft leagues. Liverpool's fixtures are kind of mixed. Villa at home this week, then Saints away, City at home, Newcastle away. It's not a run you target specifically, but I do think there's a pretty decent chance that Simas just takes Robertson's place, for the remainder of the season, really. I don't think Robertson's played very well this season so far. I think, to be honest, he just looks a little bit off it. So I think Simas is just, at this moment in time, just the better fullback for slot system. Available in 72% of leagues, and I think long term he's just going to be someone that you just pick up and keep. Like I said, the fixtures aren't amazing. I would start him this week at home to Villa, and Saints away next week is good as well. City at home, Newcastle away after that is pretty rough, and then I think they pick up a little bit after that. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but I do think that long term he is just a good pick. And also, obviously, if it doesn't pan out and it turns out that Robertson just gets his place back, then you just drop him. I wouldn't necessarily dive into dropping Robertson at the moment, because, as I said, this could flip back the other way. But I do think I'd bench Robertson this week. Simas started in the Champions League again midweek, came off at 80 minutes once the game was won. Looks good that he's going to start again this weekend. I would play him against Villa at home, but we'll have to wait and see if he keeps the place long term. But I think he probably will, to be honest. Next up, we've got Nelson Semedo, available in 84% of leagues. Wolves have had the worst start to the season of any team in Premier League history, I'm pretty sure I read the other day. But that does mean that they've now got an absolutely unbelievable run coming up, and it goes on for ages. The next 4 specifically are really good, starting off with probably one of the best fixtures you can get at the moment, and that is Saints at home. Then it's Fulham away, Bournemouth at home, Everton away. The next 4 you'd happily start any Wolves player over the next 4. Available in 84% of leagues, so you've got no danger in not being able to get him. I would rather have Ryan Aït-Nouri, just because if they play the back 5, he is more attack. He is the most attacking defender pretty much in the league, to be honest. Wolves' defence is not good, and you have to take that into consideration. I think Gary O'Neill's. I think Wolves have had 5 clean sheets since Gary O'Neill took over, which is not ideal, because that's got to be a year and a half now, like 50 odd games. So yeah, we're not looking good there. 1 in 10 strike rate clean sheets. But if it is 1 in 10, you'd think at least one of those is coming in the next 4, because this run is as good as it gets. So I think Semedo and Aït-Nouri are both worth it because the attacking threat they possess anyway, but the centre-backs I probably wouldn't bother with. The fixtures are good, but the defence I don't think is quite good enough to back one of the centre-backs. But yeah, I think, especially if they play a back 5, the wing-backs then become really good. I do think that probably, when the fixtures get easier, they will go to the back 4, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but I think the attacking threat's not quite as good in the back 4, but it is still there, so still a good pick. Finally then, for defenders, we've got Emerson, available in 86% of leagues. There are not many things that can encourage me to pick a West Ham defender at the moment, but Everton at home is certainly one of them. The underlying data for Everton attack isn't actually that bad, but the level of confidence amongst some of those players, Calvert-Lewin especially, is absolutely woeful. I mean, some of the chances they have been missing is just incredible. And to be honest, they've got a lot of players that have a lot of history at missing a lot of chances, which is not what you want. But it's not the thing that screams out to me they're going to absolutely bang one of these game weeks and they're going to come back to, regress back to the mean, because they have a history of underperforming. Basically all of them: McNeil, Harrison, Calvert-Lewin. These are players that are year on year on year underperforming. So yeah, sorry Everton fans, I am going to be basically going for if Saints can keep a clean sheet against them, then anyone can. That's the way of it, especially away from home. Emerson actually has a little bit of attacking threat as well. That's why I've gone for him over any of the other West Ham defenders. But I would, in this situation, I actually would take a centre-back or Wan-Bissaka instead if I couldn't get my hands on Emerson, because I do think there is a good chance at a clean sheet here. After that, I'm probably going to drop Newcastle away, Arsenal at home. This is basically zero chance for a clean sheet in either of those. Leicester away, it's not a bad fixture, but away from home, I'm not really backing West Ham either. So basically a 1 week punt, but I think it is a pretty good one. On to midfielders then, and first up we've got Tavernier of Bournemouth, available in 75% of leagues. The fixtures for Bournemouth are pretty good now. They've got a nice run, especially from an attacking point of view. I'm not massively keen on the defence. Not that it's terrible. It's just the fixtures look to me like they've all kind of filled with goals. Brentford away this week, I think this is going to be an absolute goal fest. This looks like, on paper, probably the most exciting game to watch of the weekend. I think there's neither team are fantastic defensively, especially Brentford are really poor defence and good going forward. So I think it's going to be an open game, which is going to suit Tavernier and Semenyo, especially because Brentford concede a lot of their chances from wide areas. Then it's Brighton at home, Wolves away, Spurs at home. Goals in all of those games, if you ask me. So Tavernier is definitely one to hold for the next few. Semenyo would be the first choice for me, but he's obviously very highly owned thanks to his good start to the season. So Tavernier is the next man up, and I think he's a really, really good pick. Next up, we've got Curtis Jones, available in 75% of leagues. As I said earlier, the Liverpool fixtures aren't amazing, but I do think the next 2 aren't too bad, especially 12. Southampton away, I think, is a really good fixture for Liverpool. And Jones has been playing really well lately. Someone that I've kind of had a bit of a mixed relationship with in the past, I'd say. There was a season where he had a real purple patch that I plugged him in a load of videos and got him in all my teams, and he did really well. Absolutely carried me. I think it might have been the season before last. For a little stretch, he just exploded. Since then, I've tried to sort of do the same thing a couple of times, and he's just always let me down. Never done anything since then. But like I said, he has been playing well. A few assists lately, creating some chances, taking a load of shots. Played really well, I thought, against Arsenal. So yeah, I just think he's a decent pick, to be honest. I think you could end up holding him through a lot of these bad through 13 anyway. Liverpool are probably going to score goals in all these games, so it's not exactly like it's a disaster that the fixtures being bad, because Liverpool will score goals kind of anyway. Obviously, you would prefer the fixtures to be nice, and I think from 15 they're a little bit better off the top of my head. But for game week 11 and game week 12, I don't think they're too bad. Villa at home, I think, is there's definitely goals for Liverpool to be had there, and Saints away is a good fixture, so not too bad. I think Jones is just quite a steady pick though, someone you'd hold over the medium term and see how he gets on. Next up, we've got Guedes, available in 100% of leagues. Not surprising because he's barely started this year. I'm not sure if he's started a single time yet this season. But what I will say is he came off the bench last week against Palace. And personally, I thought he kind of changed the game a little bit. They did change the system as well, where they went from a back five to a back four. Guedes obviously then came on and played on the wing. I think Cunha went to the other wing and Strand Larsen through the middle. I thought they played pretty well in the second half, actually. And I think Guedes provides a little bit more balance to the team when they play in the 4-3-3. And I think he's going to start this weekend. Saints at home. It's an absolute bumper fixture, especially for an attacker. And if he does come in and start, I think he's really, really good. It's one you'd love to have a team leak for, but I don't think I've ever seen a Wolves team leak before. Probably because most people don't really care. But yeah, it would be nice to know if he starts or not. I think he will, and if he does, I think he's going to be a really good pick over the next little bunch of strong fixtures. Like I said, there's a little bit of risk. I mean, I think even if he doesn't start, he will come on, and even like half an hour against Saints is probably still decent. You really would hope he would start, because then there is potential for him to get a haul. Next up is Crescencio Somerville, available in 86% of leagues. I spoke about Everton already. The defence is not as underconfident as the attack, but it's not amazing either. Kudus' ban has just been extended by another 2 games, so he's going to miss the next few. And Somerville, for me, looks like he's going to have that spot for the time being. And this is just really like a 1 week Everton at home. If he plays well, obviously you'd keep him, and if he does well and returns, then great. Newcastle away is not terrible for an attacker. I don't think their defence is particularly strong, especially against teams that aren't going to like press them. Sorry, let me try that again. Newcastle's defence, I think, is more suited to a deep block like they did against Arsenal, as opposed to a team that's going to sit off them like West Ham will. So I do think there'll be a bit of space for Somerville in that game, but like I said, it all comes down to how he plays against Everton. If he plays well, you probably hold him. If he doesn't, then you just move him on. But I do think for this week there's a decent chance he gets a return or two. Next up is Pape Matar Sarr, available in 99% of leagues. Been playing really, really well for Spurs lately. Not necessarily like from a fantasy point of view, but from just an all-round, play perspective. He's definitely first choice ahead of James Maddison at the moment. It's Kulusevski and Sarr in the 8s. There's kind of no doubt about that, really. What I will say is it all kind of depends on what's happening in the Spurs game, which is going to start soon. It would have been nice for me to wait until that lineup had at least come out, but unfortunately I didn't have that opportunity. So we'll see. If Sarr doesn't start against in Turkey this evening, then I'd be pretty confident he starts against Ipswich at the weekend. If he does start, then okay, maybe they rest him for Ipswich, because they've got, I think, another midweek European tie next week. And then it's City. So, I think it wouldn't surprise me if we see him play against Ipswich, get rested in Europe and play against City. I think he'll definitely play that City game unless there's some kind of injury or something. I don't see Maddison starting that, because I think they get absolutely torn apart. So if he starts against Ipswich at home, he's not obviously the most prolific attacker, but you're not getting Son, Solanke, Johnson, Kulusevski off the waivers. So he's probably the next best bet. And with like how attacking they are and how much he gets forward from central midfield, I still think he's a decent shout. And definitely for this week, if he looks like he's going to start, I will absolutely be going for him. On to forwards, finally, just the one this week. My Southampton FC forward tombola continues. Next up is Adam Armstrong, available in 81% of leagues. Looks like he's going to be back in the starting lineup for Saints after starting the season terribly, getting dropped, coming back in, getting a goal. I think he'll start alongside Archer. And Wolves away is a decent fixture. Like I said earlier, Wolves' defence has not been great. If you're going to back him in any game, it's this one. But if you're struggling for a forward, as I always say, at least you want someone that's going to start. And it looks like Adam Armstrong will start this week. I don't think he'll... I mean, he's probably back on pens, maybe. I mean, Archer's penalty was not good. So they could give it to someone else, or it goes back to Armstrong. Not sure. But I think he will start again. Got the goal last week. Maybe that's what he needed to kind of kickstart him. Saints fixtures are a bit weird in that the home fixtures are really bad, but the away fixtures aren't too bad. Wolves away and Brighton away in 13. So, like I said, it's not someone you're going to be dropping an actual decent option for. But if I had a forward slot that I desperately needed to churn, then I probably would just pick up Armstrong. Okay, that wraps up all my picks for Game Week 11. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. It's an international break again coming up this next weekend. So that does mean I'll be updating the rankings for Patreon members. So check that out if you are interested. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.